Abbiamo Peter Rowan in Italia, è tornato Peter Rowan in Italia dopo una trentina di anni, un'emozione grande per tutti gli appassionati di musica bluegrass e non solo, visto che questo artista ha eseguito davvero di tutto e di più nella sua vita, quindi è il panorama dell'intera tradizione nordamericana è ben rappresentata da quello che ha fatto in questi direi 40 anni abbondanti di carriera. Well, first of all, thank you very much. Welcome back in Italy after all these years.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Thank you. Okay. It's good to be here.
Peter, the first question is about the long past. I mean, you were from Boston, and Boston is not in Kentucky. So can you tell us how you discovered bluegrass music in the early 60s?
Well, it began before then, when I was a kid, and my mother used to put me down to sleep in the afternoon, you know, for a child taking a nap. And she used to let the radio play. And I heard all this music on the radio before rock and roll. So there was, you know, bluegrass music and country music.
Surprise you and me just dancing to the music in the air. Is that a high, lonesome sound? When that evening sun goes down, I'm gonna dance right off the ground. When I hear a fiddle play that high, lonesome sound.
And then as I grew older, I realized that a lot of that music was taking place in Boston. And so I began to find out where the music was, and also was learning to play an instrument, playing the guitar. My dad gave me a ukulele when I was 12. So I was starting to strum, and it was after World War II, so there were a lot of people from the South in Boston, and there was a place there called the Hillbilly Ranch, and a group from West Virginia played there called the Lilly Brothers with Don Stover and Tex Logan. So I began to pay attention to what was around locally. I had a little rock and roll band, and we played dances, and one night after the dance we went in to find this place, the Hillbilly Ranch, and we were underage, but we kind of snuck in and saw the Lilly Brothers play and heard some country music and saw many sailors dancing with girls, and that became my life. Whereas across the river in Cambridge, it was folk music, kind of Joan Baez and Tom Rush and people like that. And then that was Cambridge. Then across the river, the Charles River, was what we called the combat zone, which is a little rougher part of town, a lot of sailors and soldiers, and but that's where the bluegrass was.
In the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight, in the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight.
kind of experience did you have when Bill Monroe hired and decided to ask you to involve you?
Yeah, I was playing mandolin with Bill Keith and Jim Rooney. And we've toured over here years ago.
Yep.
And Bill Keith called me and asked me if I would play guitar with Bill Monroe. And he said, Bill Monroe, after 4 days, come to Nashville, I can help you. I didn't know what that meant. And also Doc Watson was close by all that time. He was living up in the Northeast, traveling around playing colleges and beginning his solo career.
How old you were in those days?
21, 22.
21. And what did you expect from your life when you were 21?
It was like a dream. It just, opportunities were happening. It was a different time. There was no digital age. And so live performances were important, and I was always looking for the older musicians, the elders, to learn from them. Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, Lightning Hopkins, John Lee Hooker.
Yes, folk revival years.
And they were around. They were around. So it was an incredible time. It was a musical renaissance.
How long did you stay with the Bluegrass Boys?
Well, at my first show with Bill, I was 22, and that was like 1964. No, I joined the band when I was 22, 64. When I was 20, I played my first show, a small tour with Bill in 1960. 1962, and then by 1964 I was in Nashville in the band. So I played with him, but not in the band. I played with him a little bit for 2 years.
Time, yes.
And then I was in Nashville from 64 through 67, the beginning of 67. So 2.5 years maybe on the road with Bill, and it was his beginning of his renaissance.
Hollywood maiden, her love more precious than gold, as he drew near to her window, 2 shadows he saw on the shade. 'Twas the great Philadelphia lawyer making love to his Hollywood maid. The night was as still as the desert, the moon hung high overhead. Bill listened a while to the lawyer, he could hear every word that he said. Your hands are so soft and so lovely, your form so rare and divine. Come with me now to the city and leave this wild cowboy behind.
Your story is a full of colors. I mean, you have made some very different experience talking about music. I mean,
yeah,
and you have recorded a lot of records of Tex-Mex, bluegrass, even country and folk, and some rockabilly,
reggae,
or some reggae. Yes, reggae.
Yeah.
So you played with David Grisman, Tony Rice, and all those musicians that started in the tradition, but they evolved in different directions. 70s were years of a new way of thinking in music.
Well, 5 years after the Bill Monroe experience, bluegrass was still my music, but the only work I could find was, David Grisman and I did a band called Earth Opera, and it really was a duo with a rhythm section backing us up. It wasn't properly a rock and roll band, but it just, again, at the time we were opening shows for the Doors, and people that were excited about music were really wanting to do things, and then a band came from that called Seatrain, and that George Martin produced that band, and so we were in England and making a record.
I tied my horse at the cantina just as the sun's going down. I take me a shot of tequila, that takes me a stroll through the town. A bridge overflowing the river, the sound of an old guitar plays, a sweet Spanish moon, the light of the tune. Come back to old Santa Fe, come back to old Santa Fe, come back to old Santa Fe.